everything that you talk about in your book, or write about, I should say, in your book, and talk about in person, has to deal with how you are conveying information and making people interested. And I think what you really deal with a lot is copywriting and copy reading, I guess.
Yeah, that's true.
That might be your next book, copy reading. I think that that's a real art to structuring wording where you pick the punch words, that get people to want to buy, get people to want to hire you, get people to want to do different things. And that's why it pays so much money for people to create all the content on websites and all the stuff. And that's what you're so great at. And how did you get this talent? And what advice do you give somebody who's not good at that?
That's so interesting you say that, and thank you for that. How do I even explore that? When I was in grade school, I came out on a standardized test in the top 1% of the nation in creative writing.
Wow.
That's interesting because I never read. I was a dancer on television. So I wasn't a reader. Mm-hmm. And yet I had this natural, instinctive way of being wordsmithing. Mm-hmm. And I was always writing poetry. Now we can go back to the Myers-Briggs and you can tell me, oh, I know, you're so heavily imbued with feelings. Yes. I know. Yeah. But I was always writing poetry. I was always writing. And I was never given any instruction. And because I must have been in another world, I remember that when I was in junior high school, I wrote something and the teacher wrote back in red, "Please see me." And I said,
uh-oh.
What did I do?
Now what I do? It's usually for talking for me, but.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, I was a good, quiet girl in school. I was never so talking.
Oh, really? I always got in trouble for talking.
Yeah. And now I don't shut up. So anyway, so I went up and I saw the teacher and he said, "Who wrote this?" I said, "I did." And he said, "No, you didn't."
Oh, interesting. That good, huh?
Then well, not really, because then he said, "It's obvious English is not your first language."
Wow.
So now I felt really terrible.
How old were you?
Talk about teachers influencing.
Were you like 10, you said? How old were you?
I was in junior high school.
Oh, so 12.
So I was,
okay.
I was about 13-ish. So he said, "Obviously English is not your first language." And I said, "What?" And I didn't even understand what he was talking about. But I kept getting all of these slams from a college professor then took my writing and said, "No, this is not acceptable. Where did you get this from? I think you plagiarized this." So I couldn't.
Then that's implying that it's so good that you got it off.
Yeah. So I couldn't, but it was not given as a compliment. And I started holding back so that all I could do was write my poetry to me, which has never been seen by the world.
Uh-oh, I want to read that.
Well, it talked about painful, torturous teenage years.
No, I see.
I really understand these young people today because I've been through all of that torturous feelings stuff. In any case, so when I started to write, I wrote all in academic language. Sound familiar to you?
Yeah.
Valid, reliable sources. I mean, footnotes.
Yeah. Followed the rules.
Oh my goodness. We had it for my doctoral dissertation. We had to use the Kate Turabian manual. Probably not even.
I don't even know what that is.
Well, it's probably not in existence today.
Funny.
But I did that and I found errors in it And I went to the head of editorial at NYU and said, look, on this page it says this, but on this page it says something different. She said, oh, with all the doctoral students, we have never had anybody find these errors. Okay, so I realized I was kind of like in another world. Then I started writing just for myself because people kept telling me in school that I was in outer space writing. And but this was, so I wrote in academic language, and then television discovered me. And then I said, uh-oh, I can't do that kind of writing anymore. It was torture to learn how to write in pop culture language.
You know, that's so interesting because you write so well, and writing, as we've discussed, is much more, it comes more naturally to you than it does to me now. I mean, I have a lot of ideas. I know you like my writing. You're very sweet about that, but it's not my favorite thing to do. You know what I mean? Like,
your writing is fabulous. I've read so many of your things.
Well, thank you. But, you know, what's funny is what comes to mind for me is your story was when I took my first English 101 class in my freshman year in college, they had us write a descriptive paper, which is my nightmare because I don't read fiction. I only like nonfiction, you know, and so it was all adjectives. And I mean, I can't read a book without going, that's a lot of adjectives. And why is his hair blue like the skies and whatever, you know, and I get distracted. And so I don't like that kind of writing.
But that's the creative part of
right. So I don't have that part.
But as a result of that, I'm a much slower reader than most people. Do you read slowly also?
Oh no, I was taught to skim, and so I miss everything as I read because you think I do anything slow?
No, but
think about that.
I read so slowly because I'm analyzing this word. Oh, I love the syntax. Oh, I love the rhymes.
My sister's more like you know, and she's very creative. You've seen her writing. It's unbelievable.
Her writing is fabulous.
I know. And so my dad, they both are writers. You know, my dad wrote all those books of poetry and things, but I don't have that, right? So I had to write this paper. They made you write about a horrible experience or something very descriptive that had happened, you know? And so I wrote about going to the dentist, which is funny. And when I was a kid, I was allergic to Novocaine and I had to go to dentist without any numbing medication.
Ouch.
Yeah. So I wrote this paper of having 13 fillings seriously done without any Novocaine. And I remember writing it thinking, oh, I hate doing this. I'm so bad at this. And my high school sweetheart happened to take that same class. So he had to sit next to me in class. And so we were, they took the papers at the end of class and they were handing them out. And the teacher goes, I just want to show everybody this one. And he took mine out and used it as a demonstration of how to write a perfect paper. And I was so mortified because by my writing it before that, you know, because I thought it was so bad. And when he held it up and he read my paper to the class, which it was kind of good and bad because my boyfriend felt bad for him because his paper didn't do so well on. And I did okay on this paper, but I've kept that. I'll have to show it to you. I still have it.
Wow.
The only paper I've ever kept because nobody ever took my writing and stood up and said, hey, this is really good. One time.
No, I don't understand you. You're so brilliant and
I'm very critical of, well, you know, when you grow up in a really super competitive family, you look at the writing like my dad and my sister had, and it's just way over the top creative. And I just didn't have that need, like you're saying, to analyze every single word. And
I love it. I love it because it sounds like words sound to me. I hear words.
Yeah.
To me, writing is painting with words, but I hear them. And one of my doctoral professors said, how do you do this? And I said, I don't know. I just do it. I think because I had such a torturous childhood that I had to pour all my emotions onto my writing so that I could work things out. And I wrote and I analyzed and I wrote and I analyzed, and I became a therapist because before I became a real therapist.